more time. I'm not ready. I need more time.
Hey guys, just wanted to go over my Crit Lightning Spear Smith of Critava. So this build has really good mapping. It's fairly comfy during mapping due to the tankiness. In terms of bossing DPS, it's not the greatest. I think we're hitting about 400k DPS with good gameplay. The problem is it's not tanky enough to face tank all the boss mechanics, so you're gonna have to actually do them. So yeah, in terms of defenses, quite tanky due to our ascendancy, Smith of Critava. We have almost capped 90% fire res, 90% cold and lightning res, and that is due to our ascendancy. So Smith of Critava, let's modify us to max fire res, also apply to max cold and lightning, and we're getting 14% max fire res, one from here, 6% from here, because we have 240% fire res, and another 1% here, and I believe 1% on this jewel and 1% on that jewel. That gives us 14%, and then for max cold and lightning we also get an extra 1% here and here. Apart from that, we also get 25% of fizz damage from hits taken as fire, so that's some good fizz mitigation there, especially because we have close to capped max fire res, and another 5% of fizz damage from hits taken as damage of a random element from this catalysis node. And yeah, apart from that, a little bit of armor, a little bit of evasion, and 50% block here. And we also have 3.2k life pool, so yeah, as I said, in maps we are pretty tanky. You're probably not going to die unless you have like multiple Rippy map mods. I think the biggest issue is Elemental Pen as a map mod, so be careful of that. In terms of damage, we are scaling crit primarily for our damage, and that is unlocked by this unique spear, Tangle Tongue. As you can see, it has really high base crit. We've got 24.8% on this. It can roll all the way up to 25%. And yeah, with that amount of base crit, it's really easy to scale crit. And apart from that, it also has this line here, forking critical hits. Basically, what happens is it rolls your crit chance twice. If you crit both times, you'll get double your crit damage bonus on that hit. So yeah, what we're aiming for is to get pretty much 100% crit chance on our attacks, so we can get double the crit damage. So yeah, for a good roll on this, it's about 2 divines. And then there is a bit of a life cost to this, because 10% of mana is converted. It's actually an upside for us. Makes mana management easier, and on Smith Critava we've got a bunch of regen, so that we don't really notice the life cost at all. Now the second way we are scaling our damage is through this unique helmet, the Deepest Tower. Basically, enemies in your presence count as being on low life, so enemies nearby you pretty much considered low life. This by itself doesn't really do anything, but there are a bunch of different ways we can scale damage to enemies being on low life. First one is this wheel here on the passive tree. Each of these small nodes is 30% increased damage, which is pretty much like a notable for other nodes on the passive tree. This is 60% damage with hits, and this one is damage with hits is lucky. So especially for flat lightning damage, that is really good. The other thing I forgot to mention is the problem with Tangle Tongue is obviously the base damage isn't that high. So what you have to do is you need to get flat damage added to attacks on your rings and your gloves. and also try and get a corruption on this for either flat, percent fizz, or crit multi, but those are a lot more expensive. And yeah, this helmet, it's about 40, and the other thing we can use to scale that is this support gem here, Execute. Skills deal 50% more damage with hits against enemies that are on low life. Normally most gems have like 25% extra damage, so this is pretty much double that, which is huge. Let's going over the other gear. Try and get about 40 spirit on your amulet, and for every other gear slot, we're just looking at life, fire res, chaos res. And we're just focusing on fire res because of this node on our ascendancy. Modifies the fire res, also grant cold and lightning res at 50% of the value. So if we just stack fire res, you can pretty much res cap without too much effort, which makes gearing a lot simpler. And in terms of the chest, Smith of Critava, if you pick these nodes, you can't use anything except a normal chest. So just try and get a nice chest with 2 sockets and a good corruption. I've got chaos res here, which is quite nice. The other thing worth noting is this charm here, Nagama Who's Chosen. This is pretty cheap, and it says when you take fire damage from a hit, you gain max rage. So yeah, normally this only applies if you get hit by a fire attack, but with Smith of Critava, since we're converting 25% of fizz damage taken as fire, basically any fizz hit will also trigger this. So that is pretty cool. Now in terms of skills, we are using Lightning Spear for clear. The gameplay for that is you Sniper's Mark an enemy, and then you just Lightning Spear them to gain the frenzy charges, and that empowers your Lightning Spear, and you'll basically just wipe the whole screen. So for the supports, we have Martial Tempo for more attack speed, Deliberation, do more damage, but you have a bigger movement speed penalty. This doesn't matter for us because we're going to be riding the Rower, which removes all your movement speed penalty. Vault, this gives a bunch of extra damage every time you've like moved for a bit between attacks. We're always moving. It's only like 1 lightning spear per screen basically, so this is quite good. Perpetual Charge, it's just some quality of life. So you can throw a bunch of these without having to Sniper's Mark. And then Pinpoint Critical. This is what lets us hit 100% crit chance on Lightning Spear. You do lose a bit of crit damage bonus, but since we're doubling our crit damage with the forking critical hits, this is really good. Now for the single target setup, we have Stormlance. This basically throws a bunch of spears in the ground, do a bunch of damage. So this is Execute for the low life stuff. You need to be standing near the boss for that to happen. Lightning Infusion, Blindside, Overextend, and Primal Armament. So for Blindside, supported skills cannot inflict blind, but you do get some more crit bonuses. So we actually need this 15% more crit to reach the critical hit chance, or reach crit cap rather. And what I've done is, in a boss fight, I will dismount my rower, and I've supported with blind. So basically your rower will go up to the boss, hit it, and it will automatically blind the boss, so we can make use of Blindside. And then Overextend with 30% more critical damage bonus. That's just great. We become dazed, but we don't worry about it too much. And the other thing we do on bosses is Orb of Storms. Now you might be wondering, what's the point of that? We have a weapon swap where we use this unique focus, Effigy of Cruelty, and critical hits with spells apply 5 stacks of crit weakness. It can roll up 3 to 5, but we want 5. So if we can get Orb of Storms to crit 4 times, we will apply 20 stacks of crit weakness, which is plus 10% base crit, which is huge. And this combined with Blindside lets us hit pretty much 100% crit chance on our Stormlance, which is really good because we don't have to use Pinpoint Critical, which reduces our crit damage bonus. So yeah, the rotation for single target is you jump off the rower, you cast Orb of Storms, cast Conductivity, you cast Sniper's Mark, and then you Stormlance until you run out of frenzies. You Sniper's Mark again, you Stormlance, and then refresh Conductivity and Orb of Storms when needed. So yeah, Orb of Storms, just keep it low level-ish, because we don't really have much int. We use Persistence, Excise, Inevitable Critical, and Conductivity to lower enemy resistances. This is for personals only. You can't actually use either of these while you're on your row as well, which is why I dismount. Inspiration, Focused Curse, Mobility, Sniper's Mark. If you're bossing rotation, you actually want to be casting this and then tossing a couple of Storm Lances. So Arcane Tempo, Ingenuity, Profusion, Life Tap. And then your row amount, Meat Shield, Blind, Last Gasp, Wind Dancer, we've got Punch Through, Maim. These supports don't really matter that much. And then Herald of Thunder, another way to boost your clear, Magnified Effect, Vitality, LE Focus, and Innovate. Alright. And yep, just going over the passive tree. As I mentioned before, we have a bunch of max fire res nodes. Apart from that, the jewels that are useful is Presence AoE. This unique helmet requires enemies to be in your presence, which is 4 meters. And then it also has this line 50% reduced presence area of effect. So that'll drop it to 2 meters. So if we increase it back up again, we can boost that a bit higher. And in terms of mana management, we also have this jewel here, recover 2% of max mana on kill. This combined with your mana flask is normally good enough to keep your mana up. In terms of budget options, you can cut the unique helmet. I wasn't using this for a while. Just replace it with the nice rare with life and res. To make this build specifically work, you really do need a Tangled Tongue, preferably with a high crit roll and some flat damage. If you are lower level, then you can skip some of these wheels. I'll show a level 76 tree that you can do, but I think it is quite important to get max fire res. Alternatively, if you don't want to path all the way over here, you can drop this entire area, and instead of getting your res from here, you can buy a Rise of the Phoenix unique shield or an Inferno Clasp unique belt, get your max fire res, and then you can also fill it out with soul cores in your armor. For Ascendancy order, I'd recommend grabbing Coal Stoker, just making res capping a lot easier in the campaign, and then going for Forged in Flame and stacking max fire res. So we become quite tanky against elemental damage. And in terms of fizz mitigation, I would just say put on a Cloak of Flame. This would give us 40% of fizz converted to fire. And yeah, I'll just stay on that until you get your Uber Lab, and then we just pick up all of these nodes and buy a better armor there. In terms of leveling this build, I just recommend there's a couple of guides out there for Rake, Stomping Ground leveling. Those are pretty good. I've heard they're quite good. So yeah, I recommend checking those out. Okay, that's it for today. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys later.
You are too late. The fourth edict already burns for your world. Predetermined outcome. Permanent suffering. Improbable. Inconsequential. Difference. We that are one. She of winter's envy. His message burns. We are fury. We split the thread. flesh is not ours, but yours beckons